Okay, we're live.
Woo!
Yay! So this is the Sassy Book Club for March 2018. We read A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle, and then we also went and watched the movie. And so spoilers are going to be rampant for both the movie and the book, but we'll start off with not spoilers and warn later when there will be. If you want to ask any questions or just take part in the discussion, use the chat that's on the live show, or you can tweet at the Sassy Book Club if you want. We can look there too, but the chat is easier because it's right on your screen right there. If you want to follow any of the Sassy Book Club stuff, then it's all linked in this description box down below. There's a Goodreads page, there's a Twitter, all that good stuff. I try to keep the Goodreads page really up to date so that there's like a discussion for part 1 and part 2 and etc. of each of the books that we read. And one more thing before we can announce who's here with us. But April, we're reading Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. This is a book about I think, Indian American woman or teen who goes to school at a deaf institute because she's deaf, gets expelled because she graffitis on the wall after there's a racial slur written on there about her friend, and then she ends up having to go to hearing school. And I'm really excited for all that ASL rep. I'm really interested to see how it goes because the ASL is not own voices. I think that the ethnicity is own voices, though. And yeah, so that's what we're reading. If you want to help host in April, tweet at me, either at my own personal Twitter or at Sassy Book Club, because I still need hosts for this one. Okay, now that all that's done, introduce yourselves. Cav first.
Yeah, okay, so hi, I'm Cav. I am also a booktuber at X Reading Solace X, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I'm here because Cassie invited me to be, and I read the book, I watched the movie, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yes. Awesome. Jessie.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jessie. My channel is Jessie Elise. I'm a booktuber along with some other things thrown in there. Yes, when I saw Cassie post about it, I was so excited because I felt like I was the only person in the universe who hadn't read A Wrinkle in Time. So I was super excited. I did end up being in a big reading slump this month, so I didn't realize till 2 days ago. I was like, oh, shoot, I gotta go see the movie now. So I literally saw it yesterday.
Nice. It's fresh in your mind.
Yep.
That's good. And Cherry.
Hi, I'm Cherry. I'm obviously a booktuber as well, and I do a few like makeup things as well. I'm pretty much the same though. I was in a book reading slump for most of this month, and I ended up watching the movie yesterday as well. So
oh, nice. I think all 3 of you watched it yesterday, right? Cav did too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched it, I think last weekend. Yeah, last weekend. So it's like not quite as fresh in my mind. But that's awesome. Okay, I gave the book a 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah,
this was a reread. Yeah, this was a reread for me. I read it in 6th grade for a book report assignment. All the whole class had to read it. And I remembered liking it a lot more at that time. So I think that it might have been the age of reading it as an adult. The writing is very young. And then the movie, I gave a 4.5 because I really liked the visual of it, but the plot is still really similar. I think my least favorite thing about the book is that it's one of those plots where it's a thing happens and then they finish, and then a thing happens and then it finishes.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was very like that.
Ooh, it was very choppy.
Yes, definitely. Each chapter is a whole short story in and of itself, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely feel like if I read this book at a younger age, I might have enjoyed it more. I just listened to the Washington Post article, A Wrinkle in Time, Let's Hope the Movie is Better Than the Book. That guy actually had a lot of decent things to say because the book was kind of illogical and confusing. So it does have a bunch of plot holes and things like that, just things that didn't make sense. So I definitely feel if I read it at a younger age, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
I gave it the same ratings that Cassie did. I gave the book a 3 out of 5 and the movie a 4.5 out of 5. I feel like this was also a reread for me. I actually first read the book when I was in 3rd grade because it was a summer reading book. And I actually liked it better this time because I think that the plot is too complicated for young kids, and that was my main issue with it because all of the science and stuff, it like doesn't really work for young kids, and I think that's what contributes to a lot of the plot holes and stuff. So whereas I still had issues with it, I think that it's actually easier to understand as someone who's older now.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I feel like that was part of why I didn't like it because I just kept asking like, what is going on? Whereas as a kid, I think maybe you overlook your confusion because it's cool and there's plenty of stuff going on. So it's not like you have to focus in on the science if you don't want to, as a kid especially.
I feel like that's kind of interesting that it's difficult to read kind of as a younger person, but also if you're too old, it's like kind of illogical. So there kind of has to, if it was rewritten, it could have been done so well, even though it is a really great children's story, but you have to be at like the perfect ripe age to read it.
Yeah, it's so good for like preteen, I think.
Yeah.
Slightly young, but not too young. I don't know. Hard. What about you, Cherry?
I almost wish it was kind of, I don't know, I guess more written for my age, because then then it was more like maybe young adult, new adult kind of styles, and it was about 200 pages, maybe more. Because then
it felt short too.
I'd have felt it wouldn't have been quite so choppy if it kind of filled out a little bit, and I don't know, I'd have probably been able to relate to it a bit better if it wasn't quite so middle grade and short book. So.
Yes, I agree.
It's a lot to throw into one book to have like magic, folklore, science fiction, dystopian, like all these things wrapped into one. Like this guy listed an entire list of everything that it has to have like and smush in a short 200 pages.
Yeah.
That's a lot to do.
Yeah. Did you guys do you three read a lot of middle grade children's books in general, or is that not really your genre in the first place?
It's not really my genre at the moment, no.
I kind of read middle grade to come out of reading slumps because they're normally like short, easy books just to get straight into, and you kind of get back into that reading pace again. So.
Definitely. They're usually quick reads for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Kath?
I think I read like a decent amount. My primary is YA, but I feel like I try to make sure that I have a little bit of everything, both in terms of genre and age group. So I do have like a few middle grade books on my bookshelf, but it's definitely not like what I would reach for if I was in a bookstore.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I probably only read maybe 1 to 3 middle grade a year.
Especially like lately. When I was maybe like 5 years ago even, I read a lot more middle grade. Like Percy Jackson is one of my favorite books, and I consider that middle grade, like old middle grade, but it's like the in-between middle, young adult. I don't know. And I love Percy Jackson. I haven't reread it recently, so who knows? Maybe I hate it now. But I've noticed as I've gotten older, especially the last few years, my age range of even within YA, if it's too young of a YA, I'm like, I don't like it. Like 16 is like the cusp. If it gets younger than that, I'm like,
yeah, me too. I definitely struggled with that a lot recently. Reading YA is just, I feel like a lot of them aren't relatable. I don't know. Yeah,
and I don't know what it is. You're in college, right?
No, Jesse? I'm 17.
Okay, so you are in high school. So you're like in the age range of it.
I'm in the age range, and I'm reading all these books, and I'm like, this is not happening.
Maybe that's what it is. It's too real, or it's too supposed to be real and not real enough.
Yeah,
I definitely can feel that. Okay, I think we should start getting into spoilers. So for those watching in the future or now, if you haven't read it and you haven't watched it and don't want to get spoiled for adaptation changes or just like plot happenings, leave now and don't kill us for spoiling you. Okay. What was your favorite character? And maybe they're different for the book and the movie, but what was your favorite character?
I didn't have a favorite character in the book.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but in the movie, my favorite character was probably I liked them all in the movie. I didn't like them all in the book.
Yeah, me too.
So I
Yeah.
feel like my favorite character in the movie was probably Charles Wallace.
Yeah, I agree. I love Charles Wallace.
I really liked Calvin.
Me too. I mean,
Me too.
the three in the movie were, I think, way better. In the book, their ages are significantly different.
Yeah,
Like-
I didn't get that with the whole Charles Wallace thing. It's like, were you a baby boy that was like a prodigy, or were you 4-year-old, or what? As soon as I saw it in the movie, I was like, this makes sense. But the book,
Yeah.
I was like, are you a baby? Are you what?
He's supposed to be I think right around 4 or 5, because they say something in the book about how he's supposed to start school next year.
Yeah.
So
Because
that puts
he
him
thinks
at
and
around.
behaves so much like an adult.
Yeah. And so his age in the movie felt a lot more easier to put your head around. Like, okay, a smart 7-year-old, that I can get. A smart 4-year-old is like, it's a little young.
My
then-
daughter just turned 4, and I was like, there is no way this is a
Yeah,
4-year-old
exactly. Yeah, like if you're around kids at all, you're just like, it's too not right.
Yeah.
And then I also didn't love the age range in the book of Calvin and what's her name?
Meg.
Yes. She's like 12 and he's supposed to be a junior in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. It was weird. And in the movie, they aged them to a more similar.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to be the same year in the in the movie.
I really liked Calvin in the movie, but I could not stand him in the book.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't
talk about
really.
casting.
Who?
I said, should we talk about casting next?
Yes, next, definitely.
Okay. Continue.
I liked the 3 in the book too. I think that I had a lot more connection with them in the movie. But my favorite character in the book was not in the movie, and it was Aunt Beast. I liked her.
They mentioned it, didn't they? But they didn't actually show that actual part of the book.
The whole part is not in it.
Yeah.
Which I understand why they did that, because again, the book felt too long, even though it was so short. Like there's too many.
And the twins weren't mentioned too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I liked Aunt Beast, but she's not in the movie. In the movie, I would probably say Charles Wallace, or I really liked. I don't remember which. Is she Mrs. Which? Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, Mrs.
What's it?
Is that Mrs. What's It? I can't remember who's.
Who's kind of like a funny character who kind of broke the tension.
Yeah, and I just love how much she just says. It just spews. Doesn't think about what might be offensive or whatever. It was funny. I like that. Okay, let's do casting.
So in the book, I know they casted a lot of the characters that look very different. Like in the book, Calvin's supposed to have red hair, freckles. He obviously doesn't look like that in the movie. And also Charles Wallace is supposed to have blonde hair. So they definitely changed the casting, which some people get really offended and hate that. I didn't mind, honestly.
Yeah, I loved having more diverse cast. That was great.
Yeah, I really like the casting.
The only casting, well, I've heard a lot of people complain that the witches are like too pretty too. Like in the book, they're described as like old and decrepit almost.
Yeah, that was also one thing I didn't understand was their costumes. They were amazing and really cool and unique. I just feel like they almost didn't fit with like how I envisioned in the book when they describe her with like raggedy rags and tall rubber boots and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa, this is like taking the Hunger Games and putting it in A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, it was way more whimsical in the movie, I felt.
Yeah.
Like it was just a totally different feeling, I think. And I didn't hate it. It was different. I mean,
it was very different. Yeah. Like Oprah's makeup, I was like, wow, that's amazing, but why?
What's happening?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be Oprah in there because I didn't check who was like in the cast or anything. So I was like, "Whoa, who is that, Oprah?"
Yeah. Can we talk about the casting of the happy medium specifically?
Oh yeah, that's supposed to be a woman.
Yeah.
Yes, it was, and it not only is it not a woman, which okay, fine, but it was Zach Galifianakis. I could not. I couldn't take a minute seriously in the whole scene.
Me neither.
Like, what are we doing here? What happened? Where did this go? How did we get here?
Especially like his half arm situation.
It was too much.
Like that would be chilly.
Yeah, I didn't understand a second of it. Well, and I was a little bit sad because we get the scene right before we meet the happy medium, and Reese Witherspoon's character, which one is she again?
What's it?
Mrs. Whatsit is like, oh, the happy medium is very cute. I mean, very great at their job. And like, you see the flirtation before you see the happy medium. And I was like, female romance. And then it didn't happen. And I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just, they did a good job on a lot of other reps. So it's fine.
I noticed there was like an editing mistake kind of because when they're in the circle on like those balancing rocks, they were supposed to be holding hands. And so like, I think it was Meg holding hands with the happy medium. And then they cut to like a shot of them above and they are far too far apart to even be close to holding hands. I'm like, oof.
I saw that too. And I was like,
Because like I want to go to college to be a film major, so like I pay attention to like a lot of the small details.
Yeah, I love finding editing mistakes. Like there's this random off-topic subject, but in Cheaper by the Dozen, there's a scene where the mom is at the train station and the kid like runs into her arms and they hug. And in the first shot, you watch her sunglasses fall off her head. And then immediately it shoots to switching so that you see her face instead of her back of her head, and her sunglasses are perfectly back. And I was just like, editing problem. I love that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so favorite character. Okay, favorite part of the quests, like out of all of them in the book, which part is your favorite?
I like the well, the house thing was really cool. It was very kind of different from. I mean, it was very similar to the book, but still kind of different how that went about. And it was just more magical seeing it in person, like how creepy that was. I literally heard people in the theater being like, what the heck? This
the neighborhood part? Like where they're all bouncing?
Yeah, where they're all bouncing the ball. That was so creepy cool. And I also like the tree part because I was like, ooh, I ship it.
Yes, I liked that too. When they go in, you're talking about when they go into the bark, right?
Into the tree.
They, like fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that too. It was way easier to get behind the romance of it, which was, I felt, even more prominent in the movie than it was in the book.
Definitely, I couldn't really see it in the book.
It was just like slight in the book. It was like a crush instead of like a full-on romance. Which
was still a little difficult for me to wrap my head around because I was like at 12 or 13, there was no like guys crushing me. Like I didn't think about guys for. I mean, I guess I don't know. I love so young. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, 12. I mean, well, at 12, what grade is that? Is around 7th grade?
5th or 6th grade.
Oh, 5th or 6th grade. Oh, I for sure had a boyfriend in 5th grade. I mean, a boyfriend. Which means we like held hands at the library.
Yeah, that's how relationships were back then.
So cute. Aw.
Yeah, to be fair, I can't talk. I kind of met my husband when I was 14, so.
Dang.
That's
I didn't have my first boyfriend till 16.
Oh, man. I met my fiance when I was 20, but he's 14 years older than me, so if we had met any younger, it would have been weird. Okay, so yeah, favorite part of the quest, Cav and Cherry.
I like the same. Oh,
go ahead.
I was kind of the same. I liked the house part in the movie. It kind of it made it feel a lot creepier than the book did.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Like seeing them all there, like bouncing the ball, I was like, oh, that's bordering on horror for me. I was like, oh, that's giving me creeps.
For sure. What about you, Cav?
I also like the house part. I remember seeing that in the trailer and being like, what's happening? So I think they made that really creepy. And then I also liked, this wasn't really like very questy, but I liked when they first tessered and they went to that planet, and then like we got to see like Reese Witherspoon transform into that like new creature, and they like rode her. I just thought that was really pretty.
Yeah.
Especially when she was flying, like the detail, like the spine of the creature, it was just so cool.
Yeah, I have a question about CGI, so we can start transferring into that question. But I love that part too. It was so pretty, and the flowers too that fly up and like save Calvin and everything. Like, whew, it was gorgeous.
I was definitely getting some like Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan vibes, especially because the guy who played Calvin was Peter Pan in Pan. I was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, he was Peter Pan. So the whole time when I was watching him like go up in the air and fly, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And isn't he the first one to like start floating, or is that Maggie?
I think that was Meg, because she was like
Meg.
thinking about the physics part of it.
That's right. Okay. What else about the CGI did you guys like or dislike in the movie? Obviously, I thought it was pretty well done. It reminded me. Some people hate this movie, but it reminded me a lot of Avatar.
That's
Avatar
exactly
with the blue
what
people.
Yeah, that was my first initial thought when I saw them flying through and the floating things.
Yeah, that beast, the thing Reese Witherspoon turns into, and the flowers moving and having like thoughts and stuff. I was like, ooh, Avatar. And I love that movie personally. I think it's amazing. But like people like my fiance, who I went and saw the movie with, he hates Avatar. So I was really interested to see what he would think of it, since I thought it was similar. And he just thought it was a very like colorful, pretty, which isn't his favorite thing. But anyway, he's irrelevant.
I really liked the CGI. When I was looking at the movie, I saw some people thought it was like too much CGI, but I thought it was done well. I think it was definitely a different feeling than the book, especially with like the three witches. Like they looked very different, but I liked how it was done, and I feel like that could appeal to a lot of kids, which is the main demographic for this movie.
Yes, it feels like a kid's movie for sure.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Never-Ending Story. With the whole it and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of the Nothing in Never-Ending Story, where it's like this darkness taking over and stuff, and having to go and travel and get rid of it and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of that.
Oh man, I haven't seen that movie in so long. It used to freak me out as a kid. The big white thing, couldn't even tell you what it is, but there's a big white animal of some sort, and it used to terrify me. Isn't he a good guy? He scared me as a kid.
Look, dragon.
Yep. I don't know anything, but I was very scared.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the movie, the appeal of it definitely had a mix of a bunch of different childhood stories. Yeah. Almost like the essence and magicalness of like the flowers, the flying, a bunch of things like mixed into one. It makes it very reminiscent of a lot of things, which like you said, it was definitely geared towards a younger audience since it is a children like middle grade book. So I think it was an interesting new take on it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And I thought it was, I mean, it's always nice to see children's movie have a not all white cast too. Definitely. Like, man, how many, like, as a kid for me, how many times did I see anyone that wasn't white on the screen? Like, it was pretty rare. I mean, Aladdin, that was one of the Disney movies that I remember watching a movie that wasn't all white. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot.
Princesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, the director of the movie is an African American woman, and she's like I think she's the first African American woman to produce a movie with such a big budget.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. What was your least favorite change that they made between the book and the adaptation? It's hard because I liked the movie significantly better.
I know.
Yeah, I do.
Me too.
I have one though. The whole like explanation of the reason that the dad goes missing, I liked more in the book. Because in the book, it's like he's working, he's employed with someone, with the government. And then they're the ones that choose to send him off. And like he never meant to be gone for so long and all that stuff.
Instead
and then
of being like an accident.
Yeah, an accident, and also that he just was being, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like ambitious.
Ambitious, yeah.
Yeah, I liked the book version plot of that more. And I felt like in the book they did a better job of making it very clear that both the wife and the husband were scientists, whereas in the movie it is obviously stated that she's a scientist too. Then you see that scene where they go to the conference together and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's many more scenes of like him working in the garage and her taking care of the kids and stuff. And it didn't feel as equal as in the book. So that's one of the things that I liked more in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was definitely portrayed more as the mum than like a scientist, like equal partner to him kind of working.
Yeah. And like even in the book, after he's been gone and before they go on their adventure, there's like at least one scene where she's out working in the lab or whatever while the kids are home. And in the movie, she's just being a mom, like taking care of them, which like obviously it's good to have a parent who's present, but
yeah, but it would have been nice to see how she was coping and handling after her husband left and seeing her still work and do the things that she loves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of mine.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any?
With that. I'm not sure because, like you said, I like the movie a lot more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, what else do I have? We talked about CGI. We talked a little bit about the costumes. Does anyone have more to talk about the costumes and stuff? I thought that they were very pretty. I thought everything in the movie was very pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Even the, like, scary, dark thing was cool.
Yeah.
Well made, I guess.
But I think that makes it appeal to kids.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
It was very like bright and colourful, especially on the other planets and stuff. It was all suddenly like lit up and things. So.
Yeah, and you like really feel the difference between home and everywhere else they go. Okay, how about the science of the wrinkling in time?
They didn't really talk about it too much in depth. They really simpled it down. But I guess if it's a kid's movie, like generated towards that audience, it kind of does have to be dumbed down a little bit.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much talk about it.
Does anyone understand it?
I immediately just think of like Stranger Things and the science teacher explaining with like the paper plate.
Yeah. Well, and somebody does that in the book. There's a scene where she takes a piece of paper and does it, or she takes a string.
A string.
And does it. So like it's the same. Yeah, it's that idea.
Yeah.
But
I think my husband mentioned it was in, is it Event Horizon or something movie? Apparently they use the same kind of science thing in that. So.
Oh, interesting. There's another one too. What's that movie with Matthew McConaughey where he goes through space?
Interstellar?
Yes, that one. They also discuss time warp through
that movie is deep.
That movie was rough for me. I didn't understand a single thing that was going on. And maybe that's the problem with this book too. It's just like the idea of wrinkling time is way too hard of a concept for my brain to grasp,
especially in a children's targeted book.
I think that's why they probably stopped it. Like they started off very sciencey and then it just went full-blown fantasy, and I think that's probably why, because like I think children would have struggled to keep up with the whole science of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely like an adult topic, premises, and like story, but made into a children's book.
Yeah, I think that's why it feels so weird to read it. Like you're reading this plot that if it was made for an older audience, it would be really intense and like have a lot of information that would be necessary. And then you're reading it for a kid and you're like, so that didn't explain anything.
Yeah.
You just jumped right over any of the description.
Yeah, I would have wanted it to be maybe a bit more sciencey, and then I think I would have followed it a lot better.
Yeah, it could have definitely, if somebody would have take this and like what's it called? Like a retelling version of this, if somebody would have do that in an adult book, it could be so sciencey and cool and different. It would be awesome.
I wonder if Madeleine L'Engle is still alive. There's a whole set of books though. This is just the first one.
Yeah, that's the first one. Because when I was listening to the podcast, like she definitely went back and when she was writing the book, she was writing it on her typewriter, and she was too worried that children wouldn't understand or be able to comprehend it. But then her children kept asking for more and more chapters, so she was like, she knew right then that if these children can understand it, then I must be doing something right. So she continued to write it because her children loved it, and and it got rejected many, many times by tons of publishers because nobody really understood it until
well, and like it's a pretty progressive book for being written in the 60s.
Yeah.
That is what I think is the most amazing thing about this book is like for its time, it's a female main character with a female scientist mom.
Yeah, that's huge.
And all female, the main helper cast are almost
all female, yeah.
Yeah, the powerful people.
Yeah, and I feel like they furthered that in the movie by including like more people of color in their casting and stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I loved that about it.
Me too.
I had a question that popped into my head and then it popped right back out. What was I gonna ask? I don't remember. Dang it. Okay, I don't remember.
We could talk about maybe like the morals of the story.
Oh, that's a good idea. What are the morals of the story?
Meg, very much so, it's very apparent in the movie and sometimes mentioned in the book. Like Meg has braces in the book. She very much dislikes herself and wants to change, and Mrs. Whatsit gives her the gift of her faults. And she's like, why? What the heck? And then it's basically she goes through this journey and learns why her faults make her so unique and herself, and that all these events led up to making the creation of her. Yeah.
And like,
that's a good
very powerful message.
Kind of going off of that, like when like Oprah's character like stops her on their way to the happy medium, and she says like everything in the world, all of these things have happened up to creating you. Like I don't know. Like first of all, it sounds like 10 times more powerful because it's Oprah saying.
That's exactly true.
And just like I think like my favorite part of the story is like the morals it has, especially in Meg's story. And like we haven't touched on the character of Veronica, but like I remember when they're talking about like the evil and what it does, they like show these glimpses of like characters like Veronica who's struggling with herself, and then like Calvin's father.
True, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and like I really liked how they kind of incorporated that and showed how this evil thing, but like they made this evil thing kind of more human by tying it into issues in human nature.
Yeah, they gave them all faults and issues to like prove and show them why they're that way. They're not just mean people. They have their own struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And it's definitely like Veronica, it's her own self-doubt. Like Megan's having her own self-doubt. She's just struggling with it very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Veronica more, because she wasn't in the book at all. I mean, if she is, she's a very small character that I
Well, in the beginning, Meg gets in a fight, but I believe it was actually with a guy. In the movie, she just throws the ball at Veronica's face. But in the book, Meg gets like a black eye and bruises and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that situation was actually handled differently in the movie, because in the book, her mom is like, the boy was younger than her, and her mom, what did she say?
Right.
She was like, she was on Meg's side in the book, and in the movie, she was like taking the principal's side, saying you need to apologize, where it was kind of opposite in the book. So I kind of liked it better in the book versus what they did in the movie. I thought
the principal was like really out of order. The way he spoke
me too.
to her.
Like you can't say
Look,
that
your
kind of
dad's not
thing.
coming back. I've been like, excuse me,
In
who
the
are you?
movie or the book? Which
In
one?
the movie.
In the movie, yeah.
He's inappropriate in the book too. Like I
Yeah.
remember thinking that he was tame in the movie.
But maybe, I mean, since this book was written in the 60s, there weren't as many teacher laws, like guidelines, things not to say back then. So.
And it makes sense too to change the way that she gets in the fight as well, because if she had gotten in a fist fight with somebody now, that's like a huge deal in schools. Whereas in the 60s, maybe it was just like, oh, kids will be kids. But because she's already a trouble student, then they're paying attention. Yeah, man, Veronica. Veronica's really fascinating because, again, she's not in the book at all. So this was like completely just them choosing to add this female, like, it like really was, I think it was a good way to show some of Meg's insecurities without having to like have an inner dialogue or anything, because you could just see what she was wishing she was.
Yeah, and what she was going through.
Yeah. Whereas, and then obviously we get a more human version of Veronica later when they give us that scene where she's dealing with like an eating disorder, I think, is what it was pertaining to.
It's kind of similar. Like I could kind of relate to that in my real life, because in a past relationship I was in, I was always constantly comparing my relationship to this relationship that was so picture perfect and had everything right. And I didn't realize till after I broke up with my boyfriend that there was so much wrong with that relationship that I kept basing things off and messed up mine, that their relationship was toxic too. So that's kind of what Meg's going through. She's looking at this perfect entity, wishing she could be that, not realizing that people have their own stuff going on that you don't see.
Yeah, everybody is struggling usually. The easy
and I feel like that was even included in like Calvin's character when Calvin says that, like, he mentioned something about his dad, and Meg's like, at least you have your dad, but like she doesn't understand what Calvin's dad is actually like to him.
Yes. I wanted to talk about Calvin's parents and the differences that they made between the book and the movie as well. Because in the book, I think that there might have also been abuse, if I remember correctly, but it's his mom. And his dad is absent, I think. And his mom is like overworked and has too many kids, and she doesn't have enough time for him and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think in the book his mom is more like neglectful.
Yeah, maybe not hitting, but neglect. Man, such a different change. And I think that really speaks to the time frame of when it was written versus when this movie was made.
Yeah.
I
feel like a lot of the changes the movie made was due to the fact that the book was written in the 60s and now it's not the 60s.
Yeah, I think that if they had wanted to keep it, like, they could have chosen to make the book more true to the, chosen to make the movie more true to the book if they had set it in the 60s. But I think that that would make it harder for kids today to connect with the movie, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I liked that they changed it.
And I think that I've noticed a lot in like a bunch of the big blockbusters recently, there's a bunch of memes and phrases and things said that they kind of write into dialogue of scripts nowadays to try and make things more relatable, more like punny jokes.
Did you hear that Lin-Manuel Miranda quote?
Yes, that's in the book too.
Is it? Wait.
No, I was just listening to the audiobook again, and there was a quote. She starts quoting, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all women are created equal." Yeah, she says that in the book. She recites it to herself.
My mind is being blown. I was with whoever I was watching it with. Now I don't remember who I went and saw it with, but whoever it was is not a Hamilton fan. They don't like musicals. And I heard it and I was like, Miranda, Lin-Manuel Miranda, what? And she's sitting next to me and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, it was a Lin-Manuel Miranda quote. Ah! And she didn't have any idea what was going on in my brain. I did like that they like added quotes that were more present day.
More modern. Yeah, it wasn't overdone. Like some movies can definitely overstep the line and be like, that's too far, too cheesy.
It's gonna make it age in like 2 years.
Yeah. Like, the trends these days happen weekly. It goes too fast.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
Another thing I noticed is like when they were listing the like people who had like contributed to this or whatever. I don't know if this had been something I noticed because of my personal fascination with this person, but in the movie they mentioned Frida Kahlo and they didn't mention her in the book. So that was something I noticed and I really liked.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't see the reference in the movie, but it's always nice to see those added in. I found it interesting that I was wondering, because it's Mindy Kaling, and I mean, Mindy Kaling is funny, don't get me wrong. She has skills in certain aspects of acting, but I was really nervous because her character in the book speaks many languages, and I was like, are they gonna do that because she's gonna probably mess them all up? And they just chose to not do any other languages, which was like part sad for me because I thought it would have been cool to hear
Definitely, yeah.
the way it was in the book. Like that was a really cool part of the book in my opinion, and so it was kind of sad that it wasn't there, but I'm also glad they didn't give her them and then have her mess up all of the accents.
That's true. Yeah. There was some parts that I don't know if it was just that they needed a better screenwriter or what, but there was just some part between like the three what's it, who and which, Mrs. like all them, that I felt some scenes were kind of awkward. Like I understood the humor that they were going for, but there was just certain parts that were a little bit on the edge of almost cheesy to me.
Like, do you have an example of one you can think of?
I don't know. It was just when they were trying to make some humorous jokes. It was mainly, I think it might have been like Reese Witherspoon's character. I feel like she's a very interesting character, but I feel like it was almost dumbed down in a way. Like she didn't sound that smart, which kind of irked me a little bit.
Yeah, she felt like a
little ditzy almost.
Yes, yeah. I liked that about it, but I can see why it would have been frustrating. Like I find that stereotype of ditzy very funny and like entertaining.
It was funny, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have liked a little more.
Speaking of all that, in the book they like discuss the fact that these misses are stars that sacrifice themselves for the science of killing it. And how did you guys feel about that in general, like that plot point? And also we can discuss the fact that that wasn't really discussed in the movie.
Yeah, I just realised it wasn't actually mentioned or so in the movie, or if it was, it was very quickly mentioned.
Reese Witherspoon says something about being the youngest of the three of them, and then she says something like, I'm only 2 billion years old. So, like, we know that they're all really old, but I don't think that it's ever stated that they were stars.
Yeah, she says that when they're about to go and visit the happy medium. She's like, she says, like, are you guys dating or something? She's like, we don't really have labels when you're, like, 900-something thousand years old.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what she says, yeah.
Yes. So it's clear that they're old. It's just, and that age is even young for them, but they don't really talk about the star thing. And that was something that was really cool in the book that, like, I mean, it didn't make any sense for this science fiction book, but it was cool that the stars have like a state of consciousness and they choose to fight it. I don't remember how to say it.
Yeah, it's kind of left as like an open, empty bubble in the movie. You don't know.
Yeah, who are they? Why did they come here? How?
Yeah, it's open questions that you'll never know. You just have to guess.
I think going back to something that like adaptation changes I didn't really like. I think what I would have liked is for them to put that in the movie, because there was never any conclusion given as to who the misses actually were.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I think if I'd have seen the movie first, I'd have gone, okay, I need to read the book to fill in the gaps. And then I'd have read the book and gone, wait, what? This has got gaps. And I'd have been like, fill this bit with this bit and this bit with this bit. And like, I'd get a whole thing out of both of them.
Yeah, I'm glad that I have done both, like read and
Yeah.
watched. Because if I had only watched, I think I would have just been confused. Like it was a very enjoyable ride, but it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I watched it with my husband, and he was like, "Wait, what did I just watch?" And then he was like, "Wait, this book was written in the '60s, wasn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, I think so." He's like, "That explains this whole movie now."
Yeah, basically. Like I wonder why that is. Like, why there's certain time periods where they just like they don't bother explaining anything.
It's all just fantasy and, you know.
True. Well, many of the writers of that time are all on drugs when they're writing.
Yeah.
They're all doing shrooms and stuff. I don't know the history of Madeleine L'Engle, so I have no idea if that was the case here, but maybe.
I know that she had like 10 other books published before this one, so.
Jesus. I wonder, did she write adult at all, or are they all children's books?
I have no clue. That would be interesting to learn.
Yeah. I have the sequel to this one. I think A Wind in the Door, which is the next one. And I don't know if I want to read it. What do you guys think? Will you read?
Well, when I was listening to the podcast, he said that she went back and revisited these characters, but at various different ages. So I think it would be interesting to see Meg a lot older, because where is she at? Where is Calvin? Where is Charles? Like, what happens to them? So
yeah,
it would be interesting when she revisits that world and those characters at a lot older ages.
So are the books not, they're like companion novels? Is that what they are?
I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
If they were written maybe YA as opposed to middle grade, I might be interested in reading.
I'm going to check on Goodreads right now.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because I don't know. I assumed that they would just follow the next, the same 3 characters, but obviously I don't always know everything. What's that other book? The Giver? Lois Lowry. Mm-hmm. She wrote 3 in that? Or 4?
4?
Yeah. I didn't know that either. I read the book, and it wasn't until I mentioned it on BookTube that someone was like, "Oh yeah, I've read the second one." I was like, "There's a second book to that?"
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense now. I saw the movie, read the book, and I didn't even know.
Yeah, that book was really intense for me when I read it. I had to read that one for school too, like right around the same age, like maybe a little bit older, 7th or 8th grade or something like that. And I remember really liking it, and then I reread it when the movie came out, and I liked both of them. But they were also, it was a similar feeling where, like, I remember liking this a lot more before, and now it's kind of just really confusing. It's interesting.
It's an older written book, too.
Yeah, and so I wonder if it's that.
In A Wind in the Door, it says it's a fantastic adventure story involving Meg Murray and her small brother, Charles Wallace. So it still sounds like they're a bit young in the second book.
So maybe it's just a few years away. And then, I don't know, who knows, maybe there's a gap of age between 2 of the books at some point. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
So it sounds like they go to a bunch of different planets again, like dragons are mentioned.
God. Do I want to read it? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. This is easily one of those books where I could see myself unhauling, even though it's a classic.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it says she pays a visit to her principal. So.
Oh, interesting.
Oof.
You should tell it like it is. Something like that. Okay. Do you guys have any last minute wrap up things that you want to say about the book or the movie, and then we'll head out?
Definitely. I think I enjoyed the movie, I think, a little more than the book, but the book definitely has those missing pieces from the movie.
Yeah.
That fill in the gaps. So, like, you do need to watch and read both things.
Mm-hmm. I think I preferred the movie ending to the book ending. I thought the book ending was just very quick. It was like over and done with.
Yeah, the book ending was very rushed.
Yeah, the movie kind of
unconvincing.
Made more sense. It kind of dragged it out a little bit.
The movie made me cry. When the dad comes around the corner and hugs his wife, I was just like,
I know, right?
Let me sob real quick. I did so well. I'm a crier. Like, I cry at every single movie, but I made it all the way through this movie, and I was like, good, we're done. I made it. No, I lied. I did not make it. Yeah, I liked the movie more too.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, it would have been interesting to have somebody take part in the live show who didn't like the movie, because it's good because we all agree, and so it's like a nice conversation. But I would have loved to have somebody like explain why they didn't like it, because I know people who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't my favorite movie, but it was a fun movie.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't like super riveting even. I don't know. That's not even the right word. It just was
it's just not something that's so compelling that I'm going to go out and buy it on DVD like my favorite movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was entertaining. It was a fun couple hours to spend the time doing.
Did anybody actually ever watch the original movie?
Oh, you were telling me that we should, and I forgot. And I
know I need to. My mom told me that you're like, there's an original, right? I was like, no.
Is it good?
I've not seen it.
Oh, somebody was telling me. I thought it was you. Somebody was telling me that I should have done a watch along for the original, like on a Twitter, live discussion, whatever. And I never did it because I forgot and I didn't have time, and all of those real life explanations. But I kind of want to watch it, but also I'm like really done with this story.
I want to see if they set it more in the 60s, or whether they've like modernized it like they have done with the remake.
I know, I wonder, because I think it was made in the 80s. I'm gonna look it up on IMDb real quick. Let's see. A Wrinkle in Time. I think it was made in the 80s. I lied. It was made in 2003.
Really?
What? A movie is based on blah, blah, blah. Okay. I want to know when it takes place. But it does not say in this. It has... What? No. I thought it was Benedict Cumberbatch. It was not. I got really excited. It looks like it might have been timed up. Timed up? Like based on the pictures, they don't look like they're in the 60s.
Yeah.
But who knows? I could be wrong. Anyway, thank you guys for being part of the live show. Do you guys want to plug yourselves one more time? The channels are in the down the description box, but you guys can do that real quick.
I'm Sassy. That's it.
Yeah, my booktube and all of my other social media is X Reading Solace X.
Mine's literally just my name, so it's just Cherry Walker.
Yeah, me too. Mine's
Awesome. And I'm Cassie from MissSassyKassie. You're currently on my channel. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed. And don't forget, we're reading for April, You're Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. If you want to be a host in April, let me know on Twitter, either on my own Twitter or on the Sassy Book Club Twitter. It doesn't matter. Both are linked down below as well. And yeah, be a part of the live show if you want to be, and we'll be reading this. And I hope you guys enjoyed this live show. It was awesome talking to these awesome humans down here. And it's time to say goodbye. Thanks. Bye.